Hey everyone, welcome to class. Today we have a very special guest who will be presenting the lesson. Give it up for me! In the real world. Take it away, me. What is a villain? The dictionary defines the word villain as a character whose evil actions or motives are important to the plot. Most typical stories have a villain or an antagonist that obstruct the main character, which creates a source of conflict. This happens to be in video games as well, and most of them typically follow this kind of storytelling format. However, there are also games like Animal Crossing that don't fit this kind of format and draw out a villain for you. Animal Crossing is a fun life simulation game where you move to a town or island inhabited by anthropomorphic creatures. There's no battles or obvious bad guys. But regardless of Animal Crossing's format, sometimes villains don't have to be directly pointed out for you. And I believe that this game subtly hints at the fact that there is some sort of villain, but it might not be what you guys expect. Hey guys, today I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the idea of a villain in Animal Crossing and who that might be. Alright, who wants to take a crack at this question? Who is the villain in Animal Crossing? Yes, Tiger.
Oh, that's an easy one. It's Tom Nook. Everyone knows that he will literally do whatever it takes to get our money.
Let's see what Dayton has to say. When asked the question, who is the villain in Animal Crossing, a lot of people who play the game will typically answer with the Tanuki character, Tom Nook. Tom Nook is one of the main faces of the game and has been in every single installment with a very vital role. But what about his role led people to believe that he could be a villain? This started to circulate from the very first Animal Crossing game on the GameCube. The second you arrive in your new town, Tom is already enforcing your first loan on your new house and puts you to work at his shop. There isn't any way to tell him no, and you're kind of forced to do this against your will. But after your first loan is eventually paid off, you're free to pay the rest at your own expense. He ropes you into this by offering upgrades and additional rooms to your house. He does all this while also running his shop. As you run around desperately trying to gather as many bells as you can to pay off your house, Tom's empire continues to grow. Buying more items from his shop causes it to expand while you're continuously trying to combat your everlasting debt to him. This paints him as a capitalist because he's essentially profiting off your efforts. He has created a system where you're completely dependent on him. It's interesting because Tom seems kind of like the one running the town instead of the mayor, Tortimer. This whole game mechanic lasted through Wild World and City Folk until in New Leaf he is solely a real estate agent. The roles seem kind of switched since the second you stumble into this town, you're the mayor, and Tom seems to step back a bit. He gives ownership for his shop to Timmy and Tommy, and he finally gets to do his practice at his own place called Nook's Homes. Here you can ask for upgrades and customize your house. He's no longer at your throat about immediately paying off your first debt and forcing you to work for him. The thing that's different with him and his business in New Leaf is that he offers an immense amount of customization for your house. Sure, you can change the door or roofing to your house the second you finish the first loan, but if you want the full exterior changes, you have to fully upgrade your house. This is all the main floor rooms, including the top and bottom floor, which goes to about 7.5 million bells to complete. As our house booms with more space and customization, so do Tom's pockets. He's profiting off our desire to make our house bigger and more aesthetic. Now moving to New Horizons, Tom has fully evolved from running a small shack in a town to starting his very own business, Nook Incorporated. With him still pushing a loan on you the second you come to the island, he's also selling a deserted island getaway package to you. We're not just developing a house this time, Tom wants us to create a whole new society on this island. He puts us in charge to develop this newfound place by terraforming and designing while he sits at his desk all day. His whole goal is to create a strong reputation for his brand Nook Incorporated and create a perfect paradise that attracts many residents and press. But guess who is forced to do all the work? We are. He's still getting bigger pockets from us from the work that we do. Tom has progressively through the games become a more successful businessman. How he has run his various businesses have been a bit skeptical, with his underlying intention to make the most amount of money from you. Players have kind of thought that he doesn't really care about you, he just cares about what you have to offer for him. With all this in mind, he could fit into who the villain is in Animal Crossing, but I beg to differ. Tom Nook's backstory is never really revealed to the player, but there were instances in different games where he would mention experiences he had in his life. I'm not going to go into all the little details about his backstory that's been revealed, but I'm just going to give like a general gist. Throughout Tom's early life, he was always known as hardworking, and once he was old enough, he moved to the big city to finally start his business. However, his dream of success was eventually crushed under the weight of living in the city. He then returned back to town to set up his shop. And with our help, his shop continuously expands until he finally reaches the point of being able to focus on real estate alone and eventually form his own company. I mean, with any rags to riches story, the concept of someone becoming money obsessed after not having it for so long isn't necessarily evil. Of course, depending on how they got the money and how they choose to use it, determines different things, but in Tom's case, I would say he's honestly pretty valid. In every game, regardless of the circumstances, he always gives you some place to stay right when you come into town without any qualifications you have to prove. And those loans that he seemingly pushes onto you have no interest, deadlines, or penalties for not paying. The only real consequence you get from not paying your loans is just having a small house. Hell, in New Horizons, you could just upgrade from a tent to a house and then call it quits there. In MatPat's video on why Tom Nook isn't the bad guy, he talks about how he figured out the actual real-world cost for upgrading an entire house in New Horizons, and it turned out to be quite cheap, actually. It's also worth noting that in the original Animal Crossing, if you were to bang a shovel on the side of his shop when it's closed, he'll wake up. This implies that Tom actually lives in his shop. When you come to town for the first time, Tom immediately gives you a place to stay and a way to pay off that first loan. This man doesn't even have a house, and he goes out of his way to ensure you have a house first. I think he does all this because we remind him of himself when he moved to the city, but doesn't want us to experience what he had to go through. Furthermore, the idea that we do all the work while he sits behind a desk isn't entirely true. He does profit from our loans and paying to move houses or buildings, but he still does all the behind the scenes work that it would take to develop a whole new society on a deserted island. It's also revealed in the dialogue in Happy Home Designer that he actually donates 90% of his earnings to an orphanage. Even the producer of New Horizons, Hisashi Nagami, I hope I said that right, said this: "I think he's a really good guy. You do owe him money, but it's not like he comes over and then asks you to pay him back. And he doesn't add interest to any of the loans that you may have. I think he really does stick around and wait for you, and then lets you take the lead for paying him back." So no, I don't think Tom Nook and what he does in the games makes him a villain in Animal Crossing. He's just a guy who once struggled and doesn't want us to fall victim to that same experience he had. That was a good answer, Tiger, but not quite. Does anybody else have another character in mind? Yes, Lex.
What about Red? I mean, he's a sneaky fox who just wants to trick us. Isn't it obviously him?
Good point. Let's see what I have to say. So, if not Tom Nook, what are some other characters that could fit into this category of villainous behavior? The next character that could come to mind isn't directly unrelated to Tom, and that's Red. With his sneaky personality and selling counterfeit art, he could easily be some sort of villain. I talked about this in my The Odd Lore of Red in Animal Crossing, but Tom Nook and Red actually used to be business partners. It's theorized that they could have worked together whenever Tom was in the city, but we're unsure. Happy Home Designer actually revealed their past partnership, and Tom claims that he worked with a fox until the incident. Red also says negative comments about Tom in this game as well. It's unclear as to what this incident was, but obviously it was bad enough for Tom to cut ties with Red. Maybe Tom Nook found out about his sneaky business practices, or Tom was just like, this isn't right, I can't do this anymore. So Red isn't really a good guy, and he's definitely a little bit worse than Tom. He attempts to sell you fake art and won't give you a refund. He's kind of the only character in the game that wants to trick you into getting your money. However, I still don't think Red is our villain. First of all, interacting with him is optional. He doesn't force you to buy his art, and the real reason why you need him is to progress the art portion of your museum. If he was a true villain, then I'd assume he would always try to make you buy his art. Also, not all of his art is fake, it's just up to us to determine if it's real or not. If you do end up getting the fake art, it's only a minor inconvenience, and some of them look really similar to the real thing. Red is a shady guy, but I don't think he's our villain in Animal Crossing either. He's just your run-of-the-mill con artist. That was a good answer, Lex, but it doesn't seem like it's Red. I'll take one more guess. Yes, Elena.
Okay, you guys are completely forgetting about Lyle. I mean, he was so pushy in Wild World with his insurance scam.
I haven't heard that name in a while. It's weird he's not in New Horizons. What do I have to say about that? If not Tom Nook or Red, who else could be the villain in Animal Crossing? We have yet another shady businessman, and that's our otter friend, Lyle. He was introduced in Wild World and actually worked with Red in this game. He appears outside your house on Saturdays and asks you to fill out a questionnaire. He asks what day we would like Red to come to town and various other questions that lead him to say that you need insurance. If you decide to purchase his 3,000 bell accident insurance, he will send you 100 bells every time you get stung by a bee or trip. Then that next week on Saturday, he will offer damage insurance where he'll send you 100 bells each time you bring him a fake piece of art. Obviously, his insurance is a bit of a scam because you're barely getting compensated for what you paid for initially. I think he's getting these bells from us, and then when we give him the fake art back, he just gives it back to Red for him to sell it again. Honestly, he was pretty shady and pushy in Wild World, but this was the only game he did this. In City Folk, he is the chairman for Happy Room Academy and evaluates your house, which is all he does. He does the same thing in New Leaf, but works for Happy Home Academy. In New Horizons, he's completely absent, but it's kind of implied that he's the one that does our house evaluations. How come after Wild World, Lyle was able to completely rebrand himself while Red continues to do the same thing? Maybe it was the same concept of Tom figuring out Red's trickery and decided to leave because he was like, this is not right. But Lyle definitely was working with Red in Wild World and definitely was trying to scam us. He could have also been caught by authorities and forced to join the work field to pay off his crimes, and Red was just able to get away. This is apparent through his dialogue in City Folk, in which he talks about how he hates his new job and misses his old life. In New Leaf though, he seems to be more content with his line of work and actually happy. He also mentions that he used to change jobs rather frequently and decided to settle down with his job in real estate to not put stress on his family. This could easily be a story of a guy who got caught in the wrong and was high on life at the time, but then reeled it back in and was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna change myself for the better. He didn't ask for a large amount of bells in Wild World for his insurance. I mean, like 3,000 bells isn't really anything crazy. And like I said, getting his insurance was optional, even if he was pushy about it. Unlike Tom or Red, he doesn't really control anything in the game, and his role is pretty minimal. He doesn't obstruct the player and seemingly changes for the better, which is not something villains usually do. Well guys, it looks like it's none of those characters, so Dayton, I'll have you continue. So if not Tom Nook, Red, or Lyle, who is the villain in Animal Crossing? We are. Now before you click off the video, dislike it, unsubscribe, and then block me, just hey, okay, hear me out here. Why out of all the special characters and villagers in Animal Crossing would I possibly say that the player is the villain? I honestly believe as the games progressed, it was just a villain story in the making. In the first game, we stumble into this quaint town with nothing really to show for and just a community to mold into. We can't really do much to the town, and we're kind of just here to live a simple life. The town isn't yours for changing, and the layout is chosen for you. This limited sense of customization lasted through Wild World and City Folk, with both games adding small bits of more content. At this point, we're just one of the ordinary villagers. We have no control or real power as to what goes on in the town. I mean, yeah, we can, place bridges and stuff, but that's all we can really change about these towns. Then in New Leaf, things change dramatically for us compared to the previous titles. Like the other games, we come into this town with nothing, but we immediately take on leadership as the mayor. This is the first time we can actually start to make a little bit of changes to the town. There's public works projects we can place, ordinances we can set, and even completely customize our house exterior. After years of just being a cog in the machine, we finally have the chance to run it. Even with being the mayor, we still weren't able to use the full extent of our power. The town itself wasn't able to be fully customized yet, but I would say this is where our villain origin started. It kind of gave us the sense of, wow, so this is what it's like to actually be in control. I can't wait to be able to do even more. There were a huge amount of features added in New Leaf, but our reign of power hadn't hit just yet. Until New Horizons. This is the climax of our villain story. We shift from not being able to change really anything to being able to change almost everything. When we get to this deserted island, we are promised a place that we can make our own. No more auto-generated layouts, house placements, or building placements. First, we can finally terraform and create or destroy cliffs and rivers. There's no more natural environment to bask in like in the other games. We can now erase or rewrite this environment to our liking. And speaking of villagers, I feel like in this game we treat them as some sort of commodity. We can kick out who we don't like and bring in ones we do like. Also, this is the first time they can't leave the island unless they ask you. Yeah, in New Leaf and previous games, if you played pretty regularly, they would be like, hey, I'm thinking of moving, but if you didn't play for a while, they would just up and leave. In New Horizons, villagers will just stay forever. A villager we brought to this island to fit some sort of aesthetic or want may ask to explore the world, but we can say no every single time. It's like they're not even our neighbors anymore. They're just decoration. Now to the buildings. The only two we can't move are resident services and the airport. Nooklings, Able Sisters, the campsite, the museum, all can be placed anywhere we'd like. Our island is also rated on a 5-star scale through Isabelle, which is just a reflection of decisions we make to change nearly this entire island. It's no longer about being a part of a peaceful community, it's about building a brand that attracts others. Then we have 2 game mechanics that only we can do that I believe paints us as a villain: time travel and treasure islands. Time travel isn't just a New Horizons thing. I mean, it's been a part of every game, but I feel like we've taken advantage of it the most in this game. Animal Crossing was designed to be a slow and calm game driven by real-world time, but time travel completely takes away this. Anything that would take a day to complete, we can use time travel to bypass that. This would be any sort of construction that would typically take 24 hours. You can use this to kick out villagers and even transfer the thought bubble to other villagers. Unlocking customization features like terraforming do actually take a while in real-world time, but if you were to sit there all day and time travel, you could get it pretty quick. Unlike the older games where customization is slower but less integral, New Horizons makes it central, so the urge to skip ahead is stronger. I would say a prime example of this would be in 2020 when this game came out and everyone was rushing to make 5-star islands. People were posting these amazing 5-star islands everywhere, and for me at least, it kind of pushed me to time travel more so I could make a 5-star island quicker. Then we have treasure islands, which are more of a newer game mechanic in New Horizons. Treasure islands are modded islands players can visit that include tons of furniture, clothing, DIY recipes. Basically anything you could want is most likely on one of these islands. And who only has access to these? We do. Instead of collecting furniture or DIY recipes over time, we can just go to these islands and get it immediately. And these islands were created by players for other players. We can literally bend time while also having access to unlimited resources. For a game that was intended to be peaceful, relaxing, and a break from the hassle of everyday life, we've kind of transformed it into our own little empire. Well, how about that? What do you guys think?
Oh, great. So I'm the problem? Noted.
Villain? I prefer the term creative director.
So you're saying that when I kicked out Tipper for bullying me in New Leaf, I'm the bad guy?
I mean, not necessarily, but Dayton, help me out here. Okay, I got this Animal Crossing version of me. I'll finish the rest of the video from here. Also, don't mind the lighting change. My camera died. I believe that we could be classified as an unintentional villain in Animal Crossing. Remember the definition I gave of the word villain in the beginning of this video? I wouldn't classify our actions as necessarily evil, but we're allowed to bend the nature of the game to fit our own desires. And this is all done solely by us as the player, but to be fair, without us, there would be no plot to the game. The goal of New Horizons specifically is to build something to our liking, not the villagers that reside with us. I mean, we got more and more power as the games progressed until New Horizons were literally just like some god who dictates basically everything that happens on the island. Based on the game mechanics in New Horizons, I wouldn't be surprised if the next game allowed us to just completely start from scratch and build it from the ground up. I'm calling it Animal Crossing New Universe. Trademark that right now. I did that. I said that first. Trademark that. But in all seriousness, this was just a way I thought of looking at us as players in the game. It's definitely just an interesting take, and Animal Crossing definitely is a game that doesn't really have a villain. Also, the point of New Horizons is to build an island, so I mean, why would we not utilize all the customization features and, you know, disrupt the environment? Also, I'm not saying to not time travel or go to treasure islands and that makes us evil for doing that. We're literally just utilizing things that were given to us in the game. At the end of the day, Animal Crossing gives us these tools on purpose. The whole point is to play how you want, even if it's moving a villager's house 6 times because it was maybe a 1 tile off center. Even with all that power, Animal Crossing is all about comfort, creativity, and connection, even if we bend the rules a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and let me know your thoughts. Could we unintentionally be the villain, or is it just a character like Tom Nook? Or is there no villain and I'm just digging too deep into this? Probably. Quick shout out to my fellow amazing Animal Crossing creators for being a part of this video. All their channels will be in the description and I can't thank them enough for being a part of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.